The new General Services Administration small business contract, Polaris, includes the Defense Department's cybersecurity supply chain requirements. And it may not be the last contract that does. Roger Waldron's the president of the Coalition for Government Procurement. Roger, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming back on the program. Keith Nakasone of GSA, who you know well, was on the program on Sunday talking about this very issue. He said DOD is GSA's one of their biggest customers, if not their biggest, and so it makes sense to include this. You expect to see this a lot more, that the requirements of GSA's largest customers will be baked into these contracts?
Francis, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. And yes, I do. DOD is GSA's biggest customer, has been traditionally for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been in this market. And obviously, the customer drives requirements, and this is a requirement that DOD has. You'll see it in this contract, any future IT GWACs. There'll be great sensitivity to addressing this concern.
We've talked on this program in the past about the problems that GSA had with Alliant 2. What would you like to see them do with Polaris to get Polaris off to a good start, a better start than they saw with Alliant 2?
Well, first of all, Keith and his team are doing the right things. They're out talking to industry, doing listening sessions. They've put together a set of questions they're asking to small business community about how this should work. So that listening sessions and that approach is obviously should benefit the final RFP and the management of the source selection. Things I'd like to see, I'd like to see the Section 876 of the FY 2019 NDAA included. That's the authority to award contracts at the contract level without having to evaluate price and leaving the price competition and best value competition at the task order level. In that case, then you're focusing, which the GWACs, both small business and large business GWACs traditionally do, is they focus on identifying, high caliber companies who can provide best value solutions for those contracts, and not focusing on pricing, leaving it to the task order level would streamline the acquisition, I think, reduce the risk of protest, and provide a very highly qualified pool of contractors.
It feels like you're the dozenth person who's been on this program recently saying, I hope that Section 876 becomes the way that business is done. If that idea is so popular, and it's government and industry people saying this, if that idea is so popular, Roger, why has it taken so long to get here?
You could say it's the inertia of government. I'd rather look at it as some of the positive steps that have been taken, Francis. So, for example, GSA's Astro procurement, which was focused on services around drone technologies, that is using this authority. It's the first major IDIQ contract to utilize that authority on GSA's side. I think it provides a great opportunity for GSA to see what works, how it works, get lessons learned from it, and then apply it to Polaris, apply it to future IT GWACs as well, and apply it to a future follow-on to Oasis.
So if we see the application of something like 876 with all due respect, if I'm putting words in your mouth, please tell me, but it sounds like you're suggesting kind of a cookie-cutter approach, at least to that piece of all of these different contracts. If that's the case, are there other areas where GSA should, with all due respect to them, copy and paste some of these main principles so that these contracts start to look more uniform?
Well, I think it's hard to assess how that approach would work or not work. I guess, I think lessons learned from what happened in Alliant Small Business, why the follow-on, why it didn't work out, why the evaluation was so problematic, trying to adjust based on that. The H76 authority, I think, yes, it should be used widely. And based on lessons learned from Astro, you could look at it at Polaris. You can look at applying it to the GSA Schedules program. The authority provides for that moving forward. I think that will streamline the process significantly at the award level, and also emphasize a focus on the technical capabilities and the quality of the companies that get on these contracts.
What I'm getting at, we just have a little bit more than a minute left. What I'm getting at is, what can happen? Is this one step toward, you used the right word, I think, streamlining this process so that when something new comes along, companies and government both have some idea of what's about to come out, what's about to happen to them, rather than requiring a new listening tour each time and reformulation each time?
Yeah, I guess that should be normal course of business. That once you've adopted this approach, it becomes familiar to both government and industry. It'd be standard operating procedure, understanding how it works and that capability. The other aspect, and listening to your question made me think of something, aspect of Section 876 as well in the GWAC and small business perspective. It's an enduring flexibility because it provides greater flexibility in contract administration and the ability to actually add new capabilities, new technologies to the contract, because you're not going to be tied down by specific pricing. So as long as you've drafted a scope that's broad and you can address pricing in contract administration as opposed to setting this benchmark at the contract level, I think that also provides flexibility to add additional capability over time. And again, the lessons learned from this will become part of the standard operating procedure for agencies, especially, Francis, technology. The momentum for advancing technology and capability, the government has a hard time staying on top of that. This could be an opportunity to help the government through these key contract vehicles, these strategic vehicles, to have greater flexibility to maintain that technological access to the market.
Roger Waldron, great insight as always. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Francis. Great to be on the show.